We're going to try this again. All right, I think we are live now. I think we are live and coming at you. Let me take a look. Oh boy, oh boy. Let's see. Yes, we are live. We did it. All right. So hello, Facebook land, and welcome to another episode of Alive with Chris Austin, illuminating humanity, because it is time to celebrate what is right in the world and all the good stuff that's happening out there. So I'm excited tonight to have our superstar of a guest on here, none other than Kathy Benson. Hi, Kathy. How you doing?
Hello.
All right.
Great.
So Kathy is here. She is joining us all the way from Nevada. Okay, I am in South Florida for those of you that watch or know us, and I'm excited to have you on the show tonight because you were one of the first people I actually thought about when I was like, I really want to have amazing people on this show. And a lot of people that might be on my friends list may know you as a transformational international trainer, right? Because you have really been around for like what 25 plus years, I want to say, in the transformational and personal development and in leadership world. And you were actually a part of like big movements and groundbreaking things happening in the transformational world. And you were my personal trainer, which I'm so excited. That was 10 years ago. Can you believe that? So that was,
Oh,
yeah. So that was a little over 10 years ago. You were my trainer. And so it's always awesome to be back in your space. So those of you that may not know what we're talking about, so you'll hear me talk throughout some of my shows about transformational work, personal development work. And, I talk about owning a training center and all that good stuff. Well, Kathy, it was my trainer in one of my trainings, and she's also a trainer when we can be back in person. She's also a trainer for the company AMP that I own and with Francine, and we can't wait for that to happen. So not only is Kathy an international transformational trainer, she is also the founder, I guess we would say, right? The founder of the Samadhi Legacy Foundation, which the whole purpose is to make sure that every pet is cared for, if I'm not mistaken. Every pet is cared for, every pet is loved, and they find their forever home. Now tell me if I do this right, so that until every cage is empty. Did I say it right?
you did.
All right.
Yep.
So we're going to learn a lot about Kathy tonight and what she's up to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to quick make sure that I share this to some of our pages so that our friends can for sure find us. Because some of you are just like, hey, I can't find it. Where is it? So I'm going to make sure that we share that so all of you can see it. They're excited. All right. Here we go. All right, Kathy. So where should we start? So why don't you tell people so you didn't start off in your life being a transformational trainer and an owner of Samadhi. So why don't you give us a little bit of your background and where you come from and what had you step into what you do now?
Okay, so I came from California, born in California. And I actually, all of my life, wanted to be a psychologist because my dad was a psychologist and he was my hero all of my life. And so I was studying psychology and I hated psychology. And I hated it because in the type that I was studying, there was this emphasis on, theories about why basically people are dysfunctional. I mean, I'm summarizing, so it's not really I'm summarizing. I'm just going to tell you kind of perspective at the time. So it felt like, all these theories about how we ended up the way we were, but it was all in a kind of functional. Each philosopher, I guess, or psychologist had their theory about how to shift from that, right? And when I was studying, I was like, well, this isn't what my father does with people. My father doesn't sit there and figure out why they're dysfunctional. That's, and so I literally had just gotten my BA degree and I thought all of my life, I thought I was going to be a psychologist and now I hate it. Now what do I do? Couple months before that, before I was graduating, my cousin called me and she had just done the transformational training. I remember exactly what to me like 30 something years ago. I still remember what she said. She said, I have to talk to you about something. I just did a training. I can't wait to get out of bed in the morning, given what I'm up to with my life. She said, it blew my socks off. And so she actually enrolled me in the basic training. And the second day of my advanced training, I sat there and there were tears streaming down my face. And I went, this is what I thought psychology was going to be, because this has nothing to do with being dysfunctional. This is like realizing my full self, right? And inventing myself and creating myself. And regardless of what's happened in my past, that has no effect on me. I was blown away. I was like, my jaw was dropping, because it was in psychology, what I was taught couldn't be happening in that room.
Right.
Like it was impossible, right? And it was happening. And I was seeing people come into something of their self that they never even imagined. Second day of my advanced, I said, I want to be an advanced trainer. And I feel like I was 27 at the time, but I feel like I was kind of a shy little girl. Like I don't really feel like I was all the way grown up. Not that I feel all the way grown up now, mind you. But so I thought I could never be an advanced trainer. They're so powerful. They're so confrontive. They're so interruptive. They shift in all these ways of being. And so it was a dream, but it wasn't something I necessarily thought that could happen at the time. But I was so in love with what happened in that room just by the second day alone. And of course, you know what happens on the second night, like most priceless experience of life, that I was like, okay, I'm going to be and do whatever it takes. And off small, I started off being a manager in the center and whatever, and then ended up being one of the most booked, well-known transformational trainers in the world. In fact, right before COVID hit, I was about to have my best quarter. And then 2020 happened. So yeah, and then rescue. It's kind of a long story, so I'm going to work on the short version of the long story. But I did a training for a woman who rescued animals. And at the time, of course, I didn't know she rescued animals. But once she knew me, she started posting shelter dogs on my Facebook page. And I would look on my page and I'd see these shelter dogs and I was getting irritated. I'm like, why is she posting shelter dogs on my Facebook page? And they would say things like, has till 4 o'clock today, will be euthanized, and I'm like, why is she posting this, And so one day I was like, okay, there has to be a reason she's posting on my page. So let me just look. And I noticed that there was all these comments. People were actually saving these animals. Like they didn't even know them. They'd never meet them, but they're pledging money to save them. And they would ask, can anybody foster? And then can we find a rescue? And of course, if they raised enough money, then a rescue would step in. And so I was like, oh, they're saving them. And at the time I was making really good money. And I was like, well, I can help donate. And so I was donating and learning the good rescues and learning all the, the lexicon and jargon of dog rescue. And then one day there was a dog, his name was Tennyson. By far the saddest shelter picture I've ever seen. He looked like a pit bull. He was a lab, but he looked like a pit bull because he had mange. He had almost no hair left. And he literally, Chris, he was like this. I don't know if, can you see me?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, he was like that in the photo. And I was like, oh my God. So I was like, okay, I'm going to help save this dog. And nobody was going to rescue him. Like we're pledging money and we're doing this and that. And nobody was going to rescue him. And then somebody said she would foster him. And I said, well, if she's going to foster him, I can rescue him. Now, I knew nothing about what it meant to rescue a dog. I didn't have the foundation at the time, but I was like, I'm not going to let this dog get killed. And so I said I would rescue him. And then it turned out about 3 days later, she didn't want anybody to come look at her home to do a home check. And one of the things you do when you're a good rescue is you go and you make sure the home is safe and she's not hoarding, whatever. Yeah. And she didn't want anybody to come. And I said, well, then you can't foster. But so now I had a dog with no foster. And I said, but I'm still going to rescue him. And he was the very first dog. And now there's been over 300. And almost every single dog we've rescued almost to the dog. I mean, there's very few exceptions, would not be alive if we did not rescue them. So it's one of the places in life where I literally feel like, the I matter statement, like, you matter in, like, literally in, for a rescue person, you so matter, because there's more dogs than there are rescue people. And so if we wouldn't have reached out and saved them, if people didn't support us financially and with fostering and adopting, these dogs would literally be dead. And if you saw them and you spend time with them and they're so full of life and unconditionally loving and joy creating and whatever, and you think somebody was going to end this dog's life. So it's just so profoundly powerful. I don't, I kind of accidentally got into it in a sense.
What a great
But
accident.
yeah, what, right? Like, but I mean, it drives me almost more than anything, really. It's like, I don't care how exhausting it gets. All I have to do is think about, like, we're literally saving lives, And until every cage is empty is such a compelling thing, because, of course, that's going to take a while. And it literally takes each one of us. And it takes shifting a context that an animal is a discardable thing, right? It's like, so all of that's exciting to me. And so even in the training rooms, I feel like I'm leading to that vision.
So how long has Samadhi's doors been open? So it's a nonprofit, right?
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
nonprofit. And how long have you had like Samadhi Legacy Foundation and having that baby take off?
So we actually incorporated in 2012. I was saving dogs for about a year before that. I decided to make it a nonprofit so that people knew they could trust that their money's going to save dogs and not to some other thing. And I've never taken a penny out of Samadhi. In fact, when I was working, I gave many pennies.
Right.
We won't say the number because people would literally die of a heart attack. I promise you. But so since 2012, I've been saving dogs. It ended up that we started saving mostly pit bulls, because pit bulls are one of the most euthanized dogs. I think 70%, something like 70% of pit bulls that enter a shelter will not leave alive, which gives me the chills to even say. And we, in the United States, the average is we kill 1 million animals a year, cats and dogs. And we call it, and we call it euthanize, which is kind of a weird, euthanization really means humane ending of life if an animal's suffering, right? But we kill them. I mean, we kill dogs and cats we kill puppies, we kill purebred dogs. Anyway, so pit bulls ended up being the most euthanized. And so I started saving them so that I could be making the biggest difference that I could. September 18th of last year, we actually had a property donated to us. One of the women that owned a training center in Los Angeles knew and trusted me so much. And her vision also was, she always wanted to have a sanctuary for animals. On her LOA for LP, right? We have a letter of accomplishment. That's awesome. That was the only thing she hadn't accomplished.
Wow.
And she did the training 27 years ago or something like that. She was dying. She had ALS. She knew she was dying. And she said, I'm going to have the sanctuary. So she donated it to us. Wow. And so now we have a property. And so now our dogs can be with us, which is super awesome, because we can, give them extra good care. But then of course it also costs more because we have our own property. But
talk about a dual legacy, right? Like having two visions come together and creating that sanctuary. That's pretty amazing.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. And what an honor for me, right? To like have her legacy live on through me.
Totally. Now, so pit bulls. So I happen to know they're near and dear to your heart. You love them, and you just shared a lot of information about what happens. What would you say to people that are watching that thinks that they're dangerous or ferocious and they don't want their kids around them or anything like that? Like, what would you say to people if you were to educate them on pit bulls?
So the first thing I want to say is that so we've been running this. It's a rescue and it's also a boarding place for a year and a couple months, right? And I've been bit by a Chihuahua.
Don't get me started on Chihuahuas.
Yeah. And I was bit by another really small dog. I'm trying to remember the breed, but it wasn't that long ago. And I've never been bit by a pit bull. And so here's what I would say. They're power breed animals, just like German Shepherds, Rottweilers. There's a number of them. There's like 12, you know.
Yeah.
They need special exercise. They're not dogs you can sit in a house and like it's going to be okay. They're working dogs or, you know, power dogs. So they need exercise. They need mental exercise, physical exercise. And when they get that, 99% of them are the most amazing dogs in the world, really. Every once in a while, in any kind of dog, literally any kind, Chihuahua as well, right? There could be something with a dog that they're reactive for some reason. And they're, you know, I wouldn't put him around a child. I mean, including Chihuahuas, I'm not kidding.
Right.
And so I think that people, you know, it would be like being prejudiced against a group of people, honestly. It's a similar thing. There's no like, this is how a dog is. If a dog is a power breed, they need certain things. And if they're not getting them, it's going to go wonky. And again, there's, you know, like 12 power breeds. And if they're getting what they need, 99% of them are going to be amazing. I have pictures of infants with pit bulls. Would I put every dog with an infant? No. And I don't just mean pit bull, I mean any dog.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that, you know, people need to realize that there's stereotypes. A stereotype is a stereotype, and it doesn't fit every dog, person, cat, anything, right? And to be open-minded, because I mean, some of them are literally the best dogs in the world. You know, we've had a number of adoptive families that raise their babies and their pit bull together, and just beautiful and amazing.
So wouldn't you say, because I've heard different things, that a lot of times the behavior of the pit bull can also be how the human is with
Yeah,
them. So a lot of
yeah,
times they're known for like fighting, you know, that people do
yeah,
that, pit bull fighting and stuff like that. So they're not even given a chance, right? From
yeah.
the time they're a puppy. So I think like when you're saying the stereotype and the stigma, I think that so many times that's what comes with it too. You know, the little the fights. I don't know what you really call them, but the pit bull fights, right?
Yeah,
So,
no, they're actually, it's dog fighting, and it makes a lot of money. And I mean, a lot of money. Um, it's interesting because there's also a phenomenon where people think it's cool to have a mean dog. So they make the dog mean. And this could be, you know, years ago it was Dobermans
yeah,
and it
yeah.
was
The
German
watchdog,
Shepherds.
they were always on those signs and stuff like that with the spike
Exactly.
collars, things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody wants their dog to act mean because they think it's cool, well, now that's furthering the stereotype, right? So yeah, and that you want to hear something crazy? I actually read this. There was a book called The History of Pit Bulls, I think it was called. And it's a brilliant book. But they were talking about the reason it's easy to make a pit bull a dog fighting dog. This actually gives me the chills, is because it won't turn against its human.
Wow.
So it'll fight a dog, but like it'll be loyal to its human, right? Now, of course, in history, there's been pit bulls that bit a human, like Rottweilers and Dobermans and all that, right? But it's rare. They're actually used for that because they're so loyal to their person.
So what do you think it's gonna take to get rid of the stigma of like being a pit bull?
Oh my goodness.
Because wait, let me ask you, is this just like an American thing, this pit bull thing?
No, you know that Canada has there's places in Canada that doesn't allow pit bulls.
Okay, I just thought of it
England
right
does
now.
not allow pit bulls.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually let's go back to your point about fighting, right? Because they were basically originally sort of trained for fighting. To get rid of the stigma, one thing is that has to stop, you know? And it's illegal, but that doesn't stop people. And
Legal in every state?
um I believe it is illegal in every US state. That's a really good question. I believe so.
Hmm.
Um, so if that, you know, if that keeps going on and they keep being bred for that, then there'll be incidents or people will see that and that's what they'll attach them to. Also, there has to stop being backyard breeding. It's just, there's too many of them now. And so it's like, that's why a lot of them are getting killed. And then people think the reason they're getting killed is because they're mean, but it's the reason they're getting killed is because people are overbreeding them. They're overbreeding them because they can make money or because it's cool. So yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, it's kind of like, it's a context issue, right? It's not a content issue. So we have to get to the roots of what would have somebody think fighting a dog is entertaining,
Right.
and who would pay for that? Like, all it would take, I keep seeing things that say vote with your money, right?
Yeah.
All it would take is people to stop paying for that. And
Shift it.
Yeah.
Shift it and say, not on my watch, not anymore, and take a stand
Exactly.
for that not to happen anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So Danny Mulcahy, hi Danny. So she's a huge supporter. She's one of our graduates from our training, and she is a pit bull fanatic. And she's freaking out on here because she's so excited that I was gonna have you on here, because she totally supported Samadhi along the way. And
thank you, Danny.
Yeah, she's saying pit bulls rule. My 8-pound Chihuahua owns my 200-pound pit bulls. Literally walks on them, and is saying my pit bulls are both from severely abusive past, with a sad frowny face. They are the sweetest, most loving things on this planet, and my Chihuahua will F you up, right, is what she says. And she says, don't breed or buy while shelters dogs die. That's what she's saying.
Yes, I love that, Danny. Oh my God. I think I need to make another shirt. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's Danny. You would love Danny. She's amazing. And so what do you have to say to people that are breeding when there's so many dogs that need homes?
Oh my goodness. Chris, this is such a tough thing because we kill 1 million animals a year in the United States.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And that's just the United States. And by the way, that is reported statistics. So it's like there's places that they're not required to report. There are shelters in the United States that still kill with something called a heart stick, which basically stops the animal's heart, is how I understand it.
What?
Very painful. Gas chambers. There's still gas shelters in the United States. So if you are breeding a dog, even if you're having one litter, I had 2 people call a couple of weeks ago, and it was so weird. They called because we board dogs, right? So they called, one to board a dog and one to ask about training, and they both said they were thinking of breeding their dog. And I can't just shut up. I'm not going to be mean, but I can't just shut up. I basically said to one of them, if you have a litter, that number of dogs will be killed in a shelter. You have to look at it that way, because even if your family's taking a dog from you, then there's a dog they're not going to go save. So if you are breeding, you are contributing to 1 million animals being killed in the United States, period, end of story. I personally believe in karma. Like, I think a lot of times I'll be like, please let there be karma, because something so horrible happens that we have no control over. And I think, well, maybe something happens in the long run, right? So if that's true, think of the karma that you're creating. If you're breeding a dog in a context, an environment where there's not enough homes for the number of animals there are, this goes for cats as well, then you're creating that karma for yourself. That's my point of view. So if you're not going to do it for the animal, do it for yourself. It boggles my mind. People go, well, I just want her to have one litter. Your dog doesn't need to have a litter.
Right.
They don't care.
No,
right?
They're not committed to that. They're not.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Now that I rescue dogs, and I see that we follow through with our dogs, like we literally are in relationship with them. If the person wants us to be, for life, if the person has to ever let the dog go, it comes back to us. And this has happened many times where the dog has had to come back to us for whatever reason. A divorce happens, they're moving somewhere where they can't keep a dog or whatever. And so know that if you have a litter of puppies, it's likely that some of them will end up in a shelter someday, because there are so many life circumstances where people can't continue to care for their animal, right? And so you're also contributing to the suffering of an animal. someday, unless you're gonna literally follow through for the rest of their life and take them back if they need to. So it's irresponsible and it's unnecessary. Let's save the ones that don't have homes. It's like, I don't know if, it's like going up to, I'm picturing children right now, right? Like, and this is going to be a little controversial, but I'm just going to say it.
I'm up for controversy.
Okay, good. I even feel like there are so many children that are unwanted.
Oh yeah.
Rather than have a child, adopt a child. Like, right? In this day and age, it's like there are so many children in orphanages, and in the US, we wouldn't call them orphanages, but other countries still do. It's like if you can love a being and give them a great life, you don't have to have one, right? Or breed one. Anyway, a little controversial, but in this day and age, I would never have a child either. I'm like, or if you're going to have one, then adopt one too.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a good conversation. It's a good conversation. And I totally was judging somebody just a couple weeks ago. During this pandemic, I ended up with 2 cats. I rescued 2 cats during this pandemic, Archie and Eleanor Rigby Roosevelt. I am huge. Oh, there. Hi. And what dog? What's that name?
This is Dylan. He's my pit bull.
Hi, Dylan. So yeah, I like rescued 2 cats because somebody was like, this cat needs a home, and I was like, okay, fine. So now I have 2 cats because everyone's like, Chris, it's gonna be easier if you have 2, and I was like, what? And then all of a sudden I was like, you're right, it so is, and now I'm like they're just on me all the time, and I was never a cat person. Like if anyone ever knew me, I was like, dog, like never a cat person. Now I'm like talking baby talk to these cats. It's crazy. It's like crazy. And then I'm like, good morning. And I'm like, where are they? They didn't follow me to the bathroom today, and I feel, lost. And like, luckily I've been home the whole time. I'm like, what am I going to do when I have to travel again? I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But anyway, I went to the vet, and there was this giant, beautiful pit bull that was not fixed, right? Was not fixed. So of course I was just like, hey, are you getting your dog fixed? Like that was my conversation with the person. Like, hey, are you here? Because that's why my cat was there. My cat was getting fixed.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, are you getting your dog fixed? Because it was pretty obvious on a pit bull. And she was like, no. And I was like, oh, and she's like, no, I'm gonna breed. And I was like, yikes. Right. And like I knew in that moment, like it was all over my face. Like I could feel it. And I was just like, and this is one person on a Tuesday afternoon. How many more? Right, was my thought. Like, how many more are doing the exact same thing?
Yes, absolutely.
I think she brought him there to make sure he was like fit, or she was fit. I'm sorry, she like he and she, like, because there was 2 of them that they were trying to breed.
Oh,
yeah, it was like 2 pit bulls together. One was obviously the male, one was the female, and she's like, no, and she was telling me the story, and then I was kind of done. I was like, have a great day, and like walked away. But it's everywhere, and what would you say to people? Danny's freaking out. Danny is freaking out on here. She's like, I've seen so many pit bulls take their last walk into the back room of shelters I volunteered at. It's gut-wrenching to see. The dog is just so happy to be going on a walk. They are jumping and wagging their tails, and they have no idea what's about to happen. She's saying amen, Kathy. And then Jazz, hey Jazz, long time no see, says, I'm listening to this as I walk my rescue pity girl, Charlie. The subject of my whole heart, rescue all the pit bulls. So you got big pit bull fans on here watching with you right now. So what would you say to people? Because you mentioned like this drives me bonkers when people just give their pet away. Like when they're like, so like I see this all the time, like especially with social media, right? Like I will see people going, hey, I'm looking for a home for my dog. I just can't keep up with him anymore. Or something like that. So what would you say of like, because to me, having an animal is a huge choice and a huge responsibility. And it's kind of like, I think the same thing with kids and babies, like they're cute and they're for life, right?
Yeah.
If people have this mentality that when you turn 18, they're done. I need my mother and father more than I ever did, and I'm 40 years old. Okay. Right. Like mom still, like at 40, this pandemic. So what would you say right, to people that are like, I want a puppy, I want this, I
Oh
want
my
that, because
God,
they
yeah.
get big and they live for many years.
Yeah.
Like, a couple questions here, I guess. So what would you say to people that think it's a great idea to have a pet? Like, what are some of the things that they should think about responsibly, right? Like, if they think they want a pet. And then what do you think that we could do for people to just stop giving animals away? Like you said, would you give a kid away, or so
Yeah.
I don't know if you have something to say on that matter.
So it's so funny because we had a dog that we rescued that we thought was one dog, but she was pregnant and we didn't know it. And neither did the person who brought her to us. And we ended up with 10 puppies,
Oh.
Half Rottweiler, half pit bull. Gorgeous. This is the prettiest girl pit bull I've ever seen. Like by far, she's gorgeous. The puppies are amazing. They all look like their dad. We never saw the dad, but they all have dark fur. She's a blue pit bull. And so we had 10 puppies here. And I'm like, this is going to sound wrong at first. So everybody bear with me. Why would anybody ever get a puppy? They are so much work. And they are work. So I like, people get their kid a puppy for Christmas, right? And then the puppy eats something and they're going to get rid of the dog. And it becomes a punishment for the child. I'm going to get rid of your dog. Dogs are a lifelong commitment. They are a being. They are not a thing. They get attached. I think they give far more than they take. I mean, by far, no matter what. I just had a dog, as you know, my little Marmar. She had heart disease and she was dying for many months. And there was a lot of care, like a lot of medications. And she couldn't sometimes stand up to go to the bathroom, and she'd go to the bathroom in the house. And all of that to me felt like an honor. All of that to me felt sacred. She never felt like a burden to me. And that comes along with the territory. So I think people need to realize it's like when you get married, right? Till death do us part. There's a lot of territory in that statement.
Sure is.
It's not all fluff and fun.
Right.
And so it's a lifelong commitment. Do not get any being into your home if you're not committed to them lifelong. And that means no matter what, right? There's very few issues that can't be solved, even if a dog has a behavioral issue that, with training, that could be solved. So know that you're committing for life. And if for some reason, I mean, let's take a wacky scenario, okay? Somebody finds out they have 3 months to live. So now it's like, will somebody please take my dog? Right. There's good reasons to have somebody else caring for your dog. That would be one, right?
Sure.
Then don't give your dog away to any random person, because you have no idea some of the disgusting things that happen to animals, cats, dogs, birds, whatever. And you don't know who you're giving it to. And even if the person looks okay, you don't know that. I heard a story early in rescue where this woman was adopting out boxers, and this family showed up, and they were like ideal family, kid, husband, wife, blah, blah, blah. And what they were doing was they were actually adopting the dog and then selling the dog for like dog fighting or bait dogs. I forgot which one it was. So if the rescue hadn't done their due diligence, the dog would have ended up in bad hands, right? So I think it's important to realize that the world isn't a place where you can just give a being to any person, even on your next door app, and know that that being is going to get taken care of. If you have a life-threatening thing where you've got to rehome your animal, find a responsible way to do it. And there's lots of responsible ways, right? There's good rescues. There's lots of responsible ways. And a good rescue will follow the dog for life, or the cat. So now they're never going to end up in a kill shelter.
Right. Yeah, because so many times it's just like, oh, I'm moving and my apartment won't let me have my dog.
Yeah, why are you moving to an apartment?
Move there.
Yeah, there are apartments that take dogs. Yeah, that's just crazy to me. So here's the other thing. I think if you think of a dog like a handbag or a pair of shoes, do not get one ever.
Right.
Get a stuffed animal or a fish. Fish don't live that long,
It's true.
you
That is,
know?
yep.
Take care of the fish and then it will die. Do not get a being that, it's so sad to me. I lost my Amara at 13 and a half. And there's people that are discarding their dogs. And I'm like, I would have given anything for a few more years with Amara. And then there's people dumping their dogs. There's been stories I heard where somebody took their elderly dog to a shelter and then got a younger dog from that same shelter.
Stop.
Swear to God.
See, I
I'm
don't.
like, I think I'd kill that person. Well, first of all, I wouldn't let them get another dog, right? So yeah, it's just, yeah, just don't do it. Just don't do it. They're not a handbag. They're not. My point of view is, I have a sacred trust, right? Their life is literally in my hands. This is for them. It's not about me. If your dog is about you, get something else. Get a nice handbag. I'll even donate to people that don't get a dog if they're not going to keep them for life and they want a nice handbag. I'll donate.
Totally.
I'll send a gift card.
I get it. So Samadhi Foundation. So where do you adopt your dogs out? Where do they come from? Like, is it all just in Nevada, or do you send them other places, or do they come from you from other places, or how does it work?
So we have rescued dogs from Taiwan, Tijuana, and then different places in the United States. Primarily, we focus on Nevada now. I got a bunch of crap for bringing dogs from out of state, and I completely understand. Actually, we have enough here that are being killed. Why bring in more? So I get it. And so I was originally rescuing from California because that's where I was from, and they're brilliant at Facebook promoting the dogs that need to be saved. So a number of the dogs originally came from there. Mostly now we rescue from the kill shelter, right, in Nevada, because then that way we're literally saving a life, versus a lot of times an owner will call us and say, can you take my dog? And we generally send them elsewhere. A lot of people look at that as dog flipping, because you're basically getting a very well-behaved dog and then you can just adopt it out and get an adoption fee. But it's not necessarily saving the ones that are most at risk. So we're pretty well known for saving like at-risk dogs, that they aren't necessarily the best behaved at first, or they might have medical issues. Like Tennyson had the mange. The mange took over a year to clear up.
Wow.
And it's very expensive. So my point of view is, it's like, I'm not here to cover my ass. I could get dogs that aren't a liability. We have a dog right now we rescued from Tijuana, and he's stranger reactive, right? I'm not here to cover my ass. I'm here to save a life. That dog wasn't born that way. It's not his fault. He was in the streets of Tijuana. God knows what happened to him there. He's a full-bred sheepdog. He's gorgeous. So he looks really cuddly. But when he sees a stranger, he freaks out. He just, and so it's like, I want to rescue the ones that really need the most rescuing. I mean, I can't bring dogs here that are going to like kill another dog because I have a shelter. There actually are some dogs that don't get along with other dogs. Obviously, we keep them very separated and safe and whatever. And then we adopt them out within 300 miles of Las Vegas. Okay. We actually go and do home checks physically. So that's why it's within 300 miles. And the one exception we've made was a couple in Canada rescued we got a dog from Taiwan, Formosan mountain dog from Taiwan. And they flew here and they took this dog on a number of outings, and they took her hiking and this and that. And I was not going to adopt her because we physically usually do home checks. And the day that they were leaving here, they were all in this beautiful family. The woman's a policeman in Canada. The man is in some law enforcement thing, and they're a young kid. And they were in the parking lot crying because they were going to have to leave her. And I looked at them and I said, listen, I've never done this. But you're in law enforcement, for goodness sakes. Like, that you guys, obviously you've had background checks and this and that. I said, I'm going to consider letting you take her with you. But you're going to have to send me information about your home and this and that, whatever. And they did, and she's amazing, and they send me updates all the time. So that's one very rare exception we've made. But yeah, we actually physically go do home checks so we know that they're, somewhere safe.
Totally. Because there's so many foundations that do that with kids. Why not do it for animals? Like when you're gonna
Exactly.
adopt a child, like go out and do that because you never know. So how many dogs would you say you have at Samadhi at like one time? How many can you have?
So we actually right now, I think we have about 20 right now. Some are in foster. So, and it's funny to say about, but I literally, numbers don't stay in my head. Um, we have had almost 50 at one time.
Wow.
But what I started doing was limiting the number that we took in so that we could focus on the ones that we have and find them homes. Some of them might not be able to end up in homes for reasons of, like, we have one dog here who nipped her owner. She might end up staying with us. She has a great life. I mean, they probably get more attention than some dogs in homes.
Right.
We have volunteers that come almost every day of the week, play with the dogs, hang out with the dogs. It's pretty awesome life here. And it's kind of like a sanctuary farm feel.
Totally. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You sent me
so
some videos. It looks amazing.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love it here. I actually spend the night here 4 nights, 4 nights a week. It feels to me kind of like a staycation. So yeah, so it's like we could have up to 50, I guess, but I'm really focusing on the ones we have, getting them major attention, whether they need training, obviously sometimes veterinary care, socialization, and then forever home. And then once we get a few of them adopted, we have some longtime dogs here right now. So once we get a few of them adopted, then we'll take in new ones. But I also am really, really good at, if somebody needs something to happen with their dog, I'm really good at pairing them up with a place that the dog can go. So it's kind of like a win-win. The dog gets saved, but I can still focus on the ones I have.
Right. So it sounds like you got an awesome system going on.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
people that are watching, they're like, wow, you do so much. Thank you for all that you do. Somebody's saying, I support New York Bully Crew. How can I support you? So they're asking how can they support you, because they get that you're way over there, we're way down here and over there. So how can people support you? Like, what's the number one thing you need?
always money, of course, right? Donations always. It's really, really expensive to run this. By the way, I'm like obsessed with dog nutrition. So I will not feed my dogs crap. And some people look at that like, you're a rescue, you should blah, blah, blah. Um, I, to me, the fact that a dog at most lives 20 years is heartbreaking to me. Theoretically, dogs are supposed to live 20 years, but even that's not long enough, right? If you love a being, you don't want to lose it in a short amount of time. And so I think the way that we can really prolong their life is through really good nutrition. And unfortunately, I think we have the dog food industry is almost like big pharma, and they can promote foods that are really, really bad for dogs. But the commercials, like I watched the commercials, like Purina, for example, and it looks really healthy. They're showing vegetables dropping into a dish. Well, that dog food hasn't seen a vegetable in its entire
Or like
life.
the bag on Beneful.
Yes. And Beneful is like the worst. It's like you and I eating McDonald's every single day, right? So we even
Dog treats are so bad. Those little things.
yes. So we even take care in what we feed them, and I've spent my own money on feeding them well. And will continue to do so when necessary. So people could theoretically donate food. Actually, at the moment, we've been buying Kirkland wet and dry because it's really high quality and really reasonable as well. But we can always use food donations if people don't. For some reason, sometimes people don't want to give money. They don't know where it's going. But I can tell you 100% of it goes to the dogs. I literally have not, again, I've never taken a penny, nor will I ever. If I'm going to make money, it's going to be some other way, because
Kathy is very in integrity in all areas. She is not going to do anything with that money except for save a dog. I can guarantee that. Or she wouldn't be on my show. Promise me.
That's right. Exactly.
So
Um,
people are like, oh my gosh, we need to take a road trip, go visit them, hang out, play with them, pet them.
oh, totally,
So
totally.
watch out. People
Yeah.
might be showing up from South Florida and North Carolina. So watch
Yeah,
out.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so there's also things like, Kong toys or puzzle toys or, things that are good for the dogs in terms of socializing or exercising. Mental exercise is super important too. Really yummy beds, they will give them a bed and sometimes they eat the bed. Or the bed eventually gets ripped or whatever. But I love them to be sleeping on fluffy things. I just like that kind of thing, right? Um,
So like
and
obviously all the money donations go to buy any of that stuff that you're talking about.
Yes, yes. But people could also kind of just send something from Amazon, right? They could send a bed,
Oh,
right? They could send treats, high quality treats. I hate to say high quality because it sounds whatever, but it's like, I mean, bottom line, I'm just not going to feed the dog something that doesn't prolong their life. So might as
yeah.
well send it. Yeah. Um, and I don't know, in the winter, some of them need sweaters. And so there's lots of ways, but donations really help. And I will say this, um, it's awesome to get recurring donations. $25 recurring donation a month is usually not very much for a person.
Hmm.
And yet for us, if we get a few of those, that's like amazing to us. So that kind of thing helps. And they can do that on my website, which you would have to post because Samadhi, in retrospect, is the hardest name to like remember or spell. It actually comes from a term in yoga that is like ultimate bliss. Samadhi is the point of yoga. And I had a dog named Samadhi who passed away at 5 of lymphoma. So that's the rescue was named after him. And now if I had it to do over, I'm like, maybe I would name it something a little bit easier.
Pat. No.
Um,
Yeah.
what?
Pat Foundation, something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Samadhi Legacy
People can go
Foundation.
on your so people can go on your website, which
Yes,
Samadhi, what is the website? Verbally tell
it's
them.
samadhilegacy.org
Okay.
or
So sure
samadhilegacy.com.
I'll make sure that we put that in the comments. I have it saved in my phone always. So I'll make sure that we put that in the comments because $25 is not a lot for a lot of people. And if it can save a dog's life, give them a warm bed, all that good stuff. So that's awesome. Now, at one point, and I think it still exists, can't you also do the Amazon Smile? Like,
Yes, thank you for asking that. Yes.
right?
So smile.amazon.com. If you choose our foundation, we get a percentage of everything you spend, no extra cost to you. You always have to remember to go to smile.amazon.com because they don't automatically, do that, right? You have to go there on purpose. You can buy everything you can buy on Amazon. That makes a huge difference. Yeah. It's
Yeah, so like all of you that are watching that you have like 10,000 Amazon boxes come to, if you're like me, come to your house every week. So if you go online, because now mine, it actually, because I do it so much, mine, I do yours, right? Like I'll do yours, I'll jump around each month and I'll do different people. And it'll come up now, because I do it.
yeah.
I'm obsessed with Amazon, sadly, but I order like so many things from there. So if you're watching, it's smiled on Amazon and then it gives an option for Samadhi. So even that, like that's
Yeah.
effortless. Like when you're buying, your new product or your lotion or like whatever it is you buy, every little bit can be supporting everything that Kathy's up to. So it's so simple.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
simple.
yeah. And especially now the holidays are coming, right? So there's going to be Black Friday and then there's Christmas presents and Hanukkah presents. That can make such a huge difference. I mean, I don't know, it probably costs, like really the way that we've done things, it probably costs a couple $1,000s to save a life minimum. That's if it was a very easy dog to adopt straight out. Some dogs we probably spent 10,000 on, but again, mostly that was my money. I mean, when I was working, I was basically funding everything. And then we got a donation from a trust. Somebody passed away besides the woman that donated the property and kind of gave us a little bit of a cushion, right? So, which is nice because then we're not panicking all the time. But let's say it costs 1,500 to save a life, right? So if people are donating a recurring donation, 25 a month or something like that, within a few months, we can save a life. I mean,
Right.
what can you do with your money that like directly, factually saves a life? Like directly, right? Because even if you're donating to like some research on this or that, yeah, eventually it might save lives, but this is almost like directly you're saving a life. So it's cool. We had I have a little thing that says a heart is beating that would not have been if not for you.
Oh,
And
I love
we
that.
and that can also be a gift. So it's like a little, almost like a certificate. That could be a gift somebody donates, minimum of $25, and gives to somebody for a holiday. So they know in that person's name that a life is being saved. So that's also something awesome, especially since holidays are coming.
I love that. Well, it's so funny that you say that because, of course, Danny is still commenting and freaking out over all these pit bull love. And she is saying, I am committed to helping you in your incredible mission. I will be enrolling as many people as possible to give, and I will be sending your Christmas presents to your pups. So
Oh,
watch out. It'll come with like all these pretty bows and everything, too, I'm sure.
nice.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
will
She's
like
one of
that.
those people, like she'll go the extra mile. So like watch out.
Yeah,
If
love
it's the
that.
dazzle that came from Danny, let's just let's just say that. So
Okay.
yeah, so as you can see, so like it's important, right? It's important because they don't have their own voices. They don't
Yeah.
have their own voices. And so you're a huge advocate, right? For them to be saved, for them to matter, to be significant, to be taken care of. And I really hope that anyone that tunes in now, or if you're watching the replay later on, that you really listen like from your heart to everything that Kathy is talking about, because Kathy is one of the most passionate, loving, inspirational human beings that I have ever met in my life. And you devote your life to these animals. You devote your life to people. Like you are the most giving human being, right? Like on the planet. And all you're asking is for a little in return to save a dog's life. That's it. Right. So, and here's what I want to say too. Like, this is real, right? So those of you that are watching, like Kathy's like super authentic, in case you haven't like figured that out yet, right? Like there's no blah 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 with Kathy. Like, she's not gonna get on here and like sugarcoat things, tell you things like whatever. Like she's saying, yeah, I'm damn proud that I feed my dog really good food because they're deserving of it and they're worthy and they deserve every little bit of it. So I don't know about you, but there's so many places out there that hearts aren't in the right place. And there are also so many places that are doing amazing things that their heart are in the right place. And I am particular to Kathy's foundation. And I am committed to doing anything because, like I said, she supported me so much 10 years ago in my life. Like, I was such a pain. I was such a pain. And 10 years ago, like I wouldn't even done the show, like if it wasn't for Kathy 10 years ago, because Kathy, you've made such a difference in my life. And I know that if this is the one thing I can do to give back and say thank you, I'm going to keep doing it, right? Because I have the means to
Yes.
do it in the way to do it now. And it's such an inspiration to do that. And I love when we inspire people to give to Samadhi. I get so excited, like it's my organization or something. Like I'm jumping up and down, going, Kathy's gonna be so excited. Kathy's gonna be so excited. And then I think about all the animals, like all the dogs, and the cats that you have too that are gonna be saved. And I'm like, this is what it's about, people. So like so much today, we're hearing like negativity and uncertainty and 2020, and I joke around about it too. And I promise you that if you're willing to open your eyes and look in your communities, there's a lot of amazing things, a lot of amazing good people, because innately I believe that human beings are good. And like things happen in our lives and we get like jaded and we forget these things of who we are and what do we care about. And that's why we do the trainings that we're talking about and stuff like that to support humanity. But I'm going to encourage everybody to like look around. Like look around. People aren't so bad. People aren't so bad, and they're up to some amazing, amazing things out there. So I know you got to feed the dogs, right? I know you got to go feed the dogs. We went a little bit over. We're 7:55, so we kind of did. But I got the group.
Right.
But she
Yeah.
got to feed the dogs, people, so she's got to go. But I want to make sure. I'll make sure we put Samadhi. It's samadhi.org, or what is it?
SamadhiLegacy.org.
SamadiLegacy.org. We'll make sure that's in there. Don't forget Amazon Smiles. We'll give. And then if you're out there and if you live out there and you want to adopt, right, or foster even, they can contact you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So, all right. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in this week. And again, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and answer any, ask any questions, leave any comments. I'll make sure I can answer them to the best of my ability on the replay. And Kathy, thank you so much for sharing all the amazingness that you're up to. And because I know you're super busy and taking the time to come on and be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking me. And thank you to all your graduates who have supported. It is like made such a huge difference. It's like, you know, especially with what's going on now, it took a huge weight off. So I can't thank you guys enough.
My pleasure. All right. And we will talk soon and
Love
we will
you.
be in touch. Love you, Kathy. Good
All
night,
right,
everyone.
bye.
Take care.